Good afternoon, everybody. How are we all? Hi, Karen. Hope you're enjoying your lunch. Hi, Cindy. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Joe. Yes, cold, wet and chilly here as well, Joe. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Mary. How are we all? Did we all watch the shows? I do like Janice. She's so funny. And it's nice to see Leonie as well. I know she's had a rough time just lately, so it's nice to see her back on the telly box. Hi, Janet. Hi, Doreen. Quick peek at lunchtime. Thank you, Mary. Not long before you break up now, is it, Mary? Do you break up before England? I can never remember. You always seem to have slightly different holidays where you are. Hi, Christine. Pouring down. Yeah, it's pouring down here too. Hi, Margaret. Can you all hear me okay? I'm assuming you can, because nobody said can't hear you. 21st. Seems late this year. Normally seem to have a bit more time before Christmas, but perhaps that's just my memory. It's never worked right. Reverse stamping, I've not tried. To be honest, Janet, I haven't done it very often myself. It was a specific request from a member of the group, and I said I would try and work it into one of my lives. I've not had chance before now, so I thought I really ought to just get stuck in and just do it. So I'm only making one card today, but I'm going to show you 3 other different, I suppose they're all the same technique, but they look different when you've finished. Hi, Sue. Don't think I've seen that name before. Welcome if it's your first time. I think it's very wet everywhere, Irene, from what I'm reading. Thank you, Margaret. Hi, Catherine from Australia. Welcome. I bet it's a bit nicer in Australia at the moment than it is over here. Right, I think we'll make a start. I've said hello to everybody that I can see, so let's make a start. So, as the banner says, reverse stamping. Lisa's platform makes it an easy thing to do. I've had a practice. I've had several practices, if I'm honest. Hi, Suzanne. And I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to show you 3 different ways that I've used it, and then I'm going to put a card together and I'm going to do the reverse stamping on that card as well. Hi Chris from Canada, it's snowy. Yes, I bet it is. You always seem to get bad winters these days. I'm not sure what your temperatures are like at the moment, but I know when it goes cold in Canada, it goes very, very, very cold. You always forget. Yeah, to be honest, Suzanne, I looked at it about when the lady first asked. I thought I better go and look and make sure I know what I'm doing. And I sat and watched it, and I came away and I tried it and I couldn't get it to work. And I tried several times and I thought I'm just going to have to walk away because it's doing my head in. I can't work it out. Excuse me, I need a drink. Dry throat, that's better. So I put it to one side and I walked away from it, which I think is always the best thing to do. If something's not working, put it to one side, walk away from it and go back with fresh eyes, because that way I think you're looking on it on a different day for a start. Your mind's fresh, and I think it helps to sort of sit things right in your head, like you did with the stepper card, Janet. Yes. So that's what I did with this, and then I was waiting for my re-inker for my black ink pad, and things just took over, to be honest. Lovely weather at the moment, 26 degrees. Well, I suppose that's the downside of really good temperatures, isn't it, Catherine? Thunderstorms. And when you get thunderstorms in Australia, they're cracking thunderstorms, aren't they? So fingers crossed you're all safe. Hi Helen, hi Maz. So let's do the first one. Now, I've done some prep on each of these cards already because I didn't want to be sort of doing everything on each sort of example. So on this one, you can see that I've already stamped my sentiment, and I'm not making these into cards. These are just sort of examples of how you can use your reverse stamping, and then I will use these on cards at a later date. Okay, now you can see here that I'm using the Ulti-Mate one because it's the stamping platform, and I'm using the grid side of my mat. Don't worry about using the grid side. It isn't going to make any difference to your stamping. It's not going to interfere with your stamping at all. Okay. Hi, Jill. So I've used this so that it will help me place my card in the right place, because it's all very well saying, well, I've got grid lines here, that's fine, but it's remembering which grid line I've used. So you'll also see, hopefully, if I lift it up, you'll be able to see it. I've also made pen marks on my mat. Can you see those there? Those little orange ones. And the reason I've done that is so that I remember which grid lines I'm working to, because I know what I'm like. I'll forget which grid lines I've used and I'll put the card in the wrong place and it won't work. So I'm using the actual grid line to line my card up, not the pen lines. The pen lines are there just as a reminder for me to say which lines I'm using. Hi Kathy from Wyoming. Nice to have you with us. Okay, so I'm putting this down here and I'm lining it up with my grid lines like so. Okay, and then I'm going to use this little toucan here, and he's from the It's a Jungle Out There set, which were on TV not so long back. It's a fabulous little set, but I just particularly liked him and I thought he fitted this sentiment perfectly. Okay, so that's what I'm using for that, and this sentiment came from this set. Okay, so this is the fabulous fonts and these are stamps and dies. I haven't used the die, I've just used the stamp. So the Fancy and Natter is this one here. Okay, so I've just used those. Stamped my sentiment down already, and I just need to decide where I'm going to put my little toucan. Okay, so he's going to sit here, and I don't know whether you can see, but there is like a little branch that he's sitting on. Okay, and that little branch is just going to sit inside the hook on that question mark there. Okay, so I'm going to sit him down there. I'm going to put my magnets over here so that card doesn't move, and just pick him up on my platform. Okay, and then I'm just going to ink this up. So I'm using my Cloud9 solid black ink pad. Okay, if you haven't got this and you can't afford to buy one, I know it's coming up to Christmas and money's tight, and you've got the VersaFine Onyx Black, you can use that as well. Okay, that will work equally as well. But I'm using Lisa's fabulous solid black ink pad. Okay, and I'm just going to stamp my little toucan down on my card. Now I'm not going to press too hard because I don't want that stamp to splay out. Okay, I want this image to be nice and crisp. And you can always stamp it twice rather than pressing too hard, because your image won't be as crisp as it could be. Hi Pat Perry, hi Elizabeth, hi Linda. No worries, Linda, you're here now. Okay, so that's my little toucan, who isn't stamping particularly well, but that will do. Okay, so I'm leaving him on here, and then I'm going to remove my card. Okay, and I'm going to re-ink my stamp, and I'm going to stamp this down onto here. Right, so it's going to stamp directly onto my silicone mat. Okay, now that's stamped quite well, but I am going to stamp it twice, just because I want quite a good image. All right, right, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to take my card, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to line it up with those lines that I lined it up with in the first place. Okay, so try not to put it down on top of your inked piece until you're happy with where you've lined it up. And hopefully, she said, fingers crossed, it should line up where I want it. It's a little bit far across because I didn't measure it properly, but you get the gist. See, now he's a little bit too far over. All right, but that's because I didn't measure where I was putting my sentiment. Okay, so if when you do it, you can do it one of two ways. You can do your stamping first and then put your sentiment, but you need to make sure that you leave enough gap in the middle here between your two stamped images. Okay, hi Jean, no worries darling, we've only just started, don't worry about it. Okay, so you've got your sentiment in the middle and you've got your two little birds either side. Now, as I say, this one is a little bit further away than I wanted him to be, but you get the idea. Okay, so make sure if you're going to do it, try and take a little bit more time than I've taken, because I've stamped this sentiment down without measuring the distance and without sort of working out where this bird is going to sit in relation to this one. It will sit the same distance from the edge, but I just put the sentiment in the wrong place. Okay, so that is sort of typical reverse stamping, and it will work for any stamp. You know, sometimes you look at a stamp, you know, I wish it was facing the other way. This is how you would do it. So that was the first one. Okay, now it didn't work out quite as I anticipated, but it did work. So I take my little toucan off and put him out of the way. Got ink all over my fingers now. And then when you take this image off here, I know people don't like using baby wipes, but I've found that they are the best thing to take your ink off your platform without spoiling your grid lines. Okay, so if you just rub it gently, and providing you do it straight away, you know, you don't let your ink thoroughly dry out, that image will come off there beautifully. Okay, now you don't have to use black ink, you can use a coloured ink. So I'll just put the lid on there properly. Now for this one I'm going to use Loganberry. Now this is a blending ink, but they do stamp beautifully. All right, so yeah, it looks pretty simple, Janet, and it is very simple. All you've got to do is remember where you're lining it up and where you want your sentiment to sit, because obviously if I'd have stamped the birds first and then put the sentiment in, the sentiment would have been in the centre because I could have lined it up better. You with me? So that's one anyway. So the second one, I'm using a square piece of card, and this I've used the nested stitch bubble squares to stamp my base, and the sentiment comes from this beautiful set of stamps, the Off the Edge Vintage Roses. Okay, and again, this is sighted in one direction. Now, if you wanted to stamp it on the other corner, like the opposite corner, yes, you could turn the stamp round, but that's not a mirror image, is it? It's the same image, but in a different orientation. And that wouldn't, whilst it looks okay, it wouldn't be enough for me. Hi, Lisa. Great shows, by the way. Excellent shows. So yeah, so I'm going to stamp this one. Have I gone with the big one or the little one? I think I've gone with the smaller one, this one in the corner. Okay, and I am going to stamp this in Loganberry. Now I'm going to try and line it up on those stitch lines like so, as near as I can get it. I'm not worried if it goes a little bit over. I'm not worried if it goes a little bit inside. All right, it's not going to make a great deal of difference. Now you can see again, I've already pre-stamped the sentiment, and that's because I knew that at the bottom of the card I was going to have enough space. I did test it by putting this the other way and making sure that it didn't interfere with my stamping. So you can put the sentiment down first on this one. All right, now I'm going to use my ruler just to hold my card down while I pick my stamp up, because I definitely don't want that card to move. And whilst the magnets will hold the card to a certain degree, they might not hold it enough. See how it lifted there? But by having my ruler on the top, I know it's definitely not going to move. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this up, ink this up. As I said, I'm going to use the Loganberry. Now you probably won't get as crisp an image with a blending ink as you would with the dye-based water-resistant black ink pad from Lisa, or the VersaFine for that matter. But if you wanted colour as opposed to black, this is really just to prove to you that you can have colour and it doesn't have to be black. Okay, so I'm just going to put a bit of pressure on there. I can put a bit more pressure on this because it's a larger stamp. With that little toucan, I didn't want to press too much because it's a small stamp. If you put too much pressure on, you're not going to get a nice, crisp, clear image. But because this is a bit bigger, you should be fine. Okay, now we're going to slide that ruler back in there just to make sure that I can lift this off without moving the card. Now, see, that's actually a really nice, crisp image. I'm really pleased with that. So again, I'm going to take my card off and I'm going to stamp this image down onto here. All right, make sure that your silicone mat is clean. You don't want any little bits on it. I've been using Gilding flakes. Top tip, don't use Gilding flakes near a silicone mat because you can't get them off. Because of the static in the Gilding flakes, it loves a silicone mat and it just won't come off. So it's taken me ages, but I'll get there. So I'm going to stamp this down onto my silicone mat like so, and I am going to give this a second inking as well because I do want it to have a reasonable image on my card. See, it's not really taken too well down the side there, so I'm going to have to put a little bit more pressure on that, but we can stamp it as many times as we like because it's not going to move. So if I use a bit of kitchen towel, I've got a little bit more, I can slide around a little bit more on that lid, put a little bit more pressure, and as I say, it shouldn't splay out too much. And I'm just going to go one more time because don't forget this is going to transfer off here onto that card, she said, hopefully. Okay, so that's 3 inkings with the blending ink onto that silicone mat. Now because I know which grid lines I'm using because of my pen marks, I'm going to be able to place my card in the right place. Okay, so then all I need to do is line up. Now all you've got to do with this, all you've got to bear in mind is try not to move this card once you've put it down on this stamped image, because once you move it, it's gonna smudge. Okay, so line it up as best you can with that the right line and then put some pressure on the back, and hopefully you will be able to transfer that image onto the other side of the card, and you should get a nice image stamped onto the other side, which will be a mirror image of the one you stamped originally. I've got everything crossed here. Okay, fingers crossed. Actually, that's not that bad. I'm really quite pleased with that. And you can see that it does actually come inside the stitched lines, the same as this one. Okay, it's not as crisp an image as this one is, but then it's not really first generation ink, is it? Because you're putting it down here, that's your first generation, and then you're putting it onto your card. And that's why I've stamped it 2 or 3 times onto the silicone, because then you stand more of a chance of getting a reasonable image over this side. But you can see that it is actually a mirror image of this one, and that's what I'm after. Okay, so try it. I would try it on scrap paper first with whatever ink pad you're using, which was exactly what I did with the blending ink, because I didn't want to get to this point and then think, oh, it doesn't work with blending inks. There is absolutely no reason why it shouldn't, because the blending inks do stamp really, really well. Okay, now if you were going to add some colour on that, you could either add colour with pencils or whatever, or you could just leave it as it is. I would probably leave it as it is. I might add a little tiny bit of green on the leaves and maybe a bit of shading on the roses, but I'm not going to add a great deal. It doesn't need it. I don't think it needs it anyway. Okay, so again, take my baby wipe and just wipe that ink off your silicone mat. Providing you do it straight away, you shouldn't really get any staining on your mat. Okay, and then just dry it off, because obviously I don't want the wetness off there. So that's the first one, and that's the second one. See, so same principle, different look. Okay, but then sometimes you get a stamp and you think, I really love that stamp and I want to use that. No, I can't use that. It's not facing the right way. And that could be flowers that are sort of leaning that way and you want them to lean the other way, or particular images. So sort of with your monkey here, perhaps he's swinging the wrong way, if you know what I mean. He's facing the wrong way. Your tiger, you can flip him and make him face the other way. You could also do it with the goose here and the cockerel and the little lamb, to be honest, and even the pig sort of sitting with his little trotters folded. You can just flip them the other way and they will look fabulous. So if I take this, try and get as much of the ink off there as I can, and then I can take that off there and put that to one side. Okay, so then I thought, well, obviously you can turn things round. So I thought we'd use Lady Prue, because Lady Prue's been on the TV as well. And I'm going to use this one, but I don't want to face in that way. I want to face in the other way. Okay, so I've got my little piece of card here, and that's going to sit in there. Okay, and I want Prue the other way. Okay, so what I need to do is line her up where I want her to be on this side of the card by putting her face down as she would be stamped on this side of the card. So I want her little foot just inside that stitched line, and I want her tail just inside this stitched line here. Okay, and I'll put my magnets up here, and then I'm going to lift her off there and just press her down there, and then I'm going to remove my card. Okay, and I'm going to ink her up with my Cloud9 black, solid black ink pad. And again, I should probably stamp this more than once because I want a really good image on my card. Okay, so I'm going to stamp her there. And again, because it's a bit of a bigger stamp, you can put a little bit more pressure, but don't go mad because obviously it's a silicone stamp, so you don't want it to splay out. You can see I've missed little bits there, so I'm just going to go back and re-ink those. And this is the other reason I would do it more than once, because occasionally you will get bits that aren't sitting in the right place or haven't quite caught on that silicone mat. If you've got some like older stamps or different company stamps that are a little bit thin, then use your black mat, put your black mat underneath your silicone mat just to lift it up a little bit, and that should get rid of that problem for you. Okay, so let's just make sure that we've got a good crisp image on there, like so. Okay, and then we can take our card, we know where we're lining it up, here and up the top, and hopefully then Prue will be facing the right way for what I wanted to use her for. It's such a clever use for your platform, and like I say, one that I haven't particularly used, but now that I have, oh my word, everybody's going to get cards with stamps facing the way that they're not supposed to face. Hi Julie, better late than never. You can always catch up, lovely. Okay, let's just hope that we've put enough on there and it's transferred. Okay, so now she's facing the way I want her to face. And the reason I wanted her to face this way, I've actually got a little bit of ink on my pad there that's transferred, but never mind. The reason I wanted her to face this way was because my sentiment is heading that way. Do you know what I mean? Because the kiss and kisses comes to the bottom right of the love, the sentiment is moving in that direction. So I wanted her to face in that direction. Are you with me? If you miss or smudge. Yeah, probably, Janet. But if you're patient, sorry, if you're patient and take it slowly, you should be okay. I mean, okay, the fancier natter one didn't quite work out how I wanted it to, but I can still use it because what I can do is extend the little branch, or actually put a little branch here and one over here, maybe even join them up, and then you can make it work. Okay, so don't automatically just think it's smudged, it hasn't worked, I'll throw it away, because you don't need to do that. Okay, so now Prue is facing the way I want her to face, and I can go ahead and colour her in and then put her onto my card. Okay, so again, never just look at your stamps and think, oh, I can't use that one because it's facing the wrong way, or the flowers are facing in the wrong direction, because now you don't have to worry about that. You can make them face in the right direction. Okay, so we'll take Prue off there and put her to one side, and then again just use my baby wipe and just rub this ink off here. Might take a little bit of time, but it will come off. I haven't yet stamped anything and not been able to get the image off my mat, but you do need to do it reasonably quick. Please don't use acetone or anything like that, because you will remove all the lines off your mat, and you won't be able to use the grid lines, which is what they're there for. So don't use acetone. That, and the fact that it may just dry your mat out as well. So I would steer clear of something like acetone. Okay, so that's all dry again. Okay, so I thought, well, I might as well make a card. Now that we've got the technique worked out, let's just make a card and put it all together. Can you do this, Mary, with anything other than a silicone mat? Yes, so you can. There are, if you look at YouTube and put in the search box reverse stamping, there are some people that will use a large flat stamp. So say this one, for example, this is quite a large area stamp, okay, and it's got quite a flat surface to it. So you could use this to stamp onto instead of the silicone mat. I haven't tried it because I've got the silicone mat, and this was the way I wanted to do it, because this was one of the sort of reasons for getting a really good stamping platform, to be honest, was to be able to use it for techniques that I've seen and never attempted. Okay, so yes, you can, or there are products out there that, and they are called, I think, reverse stamping mats or something like that, that people sell. So there are ways around it if you haven't got the silicone mat, but if you've got the platform, then you'll have the silicone mat. Hi, Bonnie. Yes, I know you do. She is sweet though, isn't she? It's actually, I'm really pleased actually that the person that asked could we do it had asked, because it's made me try something that I've sort of seen and not attempted. So by somebody asking, it's made me attempt it, and now I've done it, I realise actually it's not as difficult as you think it is. So give it a go. You know, it's a bit of card at the end of the day, isn't it? So what I thought I would do is I'd make a baby card. Okay, now I'm going to make the card for twins, all right? And my sort of greeting, if you like, on the front is this. Okay, now I've cut this down to size. Let me find the sets that I've used. So I've used the congratulations out of this set. Okay, this is the shadowed words, stamps and dies. I have stamped it, I have die cut it. Okay, and I've actually coloured it in as well. And I've coloured the word in using fine liner pens, and I've used one of the pink ones because it fits my colour scheme. Okay, I've also used the padded quilt, and that's for the base card because my card is an easel card, so that's for part of the base. I've used the nested stitch bubble rectangles for cutting this piece out, and this is the piece that's going to go and sort of make my easel, if you like. And then this is the bunting and banners die set that I've used to make this. Now you can see here there's 5 little flags here, but the actual banner has 6. Okay, so all I've done is I've cut at the end here, and I've taken one of the flags out, and then I've reattached the piece so that it still looks like a banner. Okay, but it's just got 5 flags instead of 6. And if you're careful, you can do it. I mean, as Eric and Ernie would say, you can't see the join, can you? You can possibly if you look on the back, but it's so easy to do, and you can then make that little banner as big or as small as you want. If you wanted to add more flags in, just do the same sort of thing, make a cut in it and add in as many flags as you'd need. Okay, obviously you're going to be limited with the number of flags you can add in because it's going to lose its shape. If you add too many, it might lose its shape a little bit, so it'd just be a case of playing around with it and seeing how it goes, really. Yeah, quite right, Bonnie. Yeah, that's exactly what you could do. Okay, so that's what I've used for that. So let's put those to one side. I put them on the floor for now. Okay, so for this one, I'm using that same It's a Jungle Out There stamp set, and I'm using this little elephant. I don't know why, but I always associate sort of baby elephants with baby cards. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me, but I just think they go really nice on baby cards. So I have pre-prepared this bit just in case my stamping doesn't go quite right. Okay, so in order to work out where my elephant needs to be, I want my elephant to look like he's holding the banner. Okay, so I want, if I bring that up, I want that little banner to sit right on the end of the trunk there, okay, when it's stamped. All right, so I've put my banner on my card and I've measured from this point to the edge of the card and from this point to the edge of the card to make sure that I get this banner in the middle. All right, and then I've just put 2 little pencil marks on the underside of this bow, okay, because that's where the little trunk is going to sit. Okay, so I'm going to line my card up here like so. So I'm lining it up with the grid lines, not the pen lines, and then I'm going to stamp my elephant. So always stamp the image correctly the first time. That's the way I would do it. Okay, so I want to line this up so that the trunk just comes to where that little pencil mark is. Okay, so I don't want to be able to see that pencil mark like so. Got a mark on my a bit of mark on my stamp. Right, so let's put that there like so. Okay, I'm going to put my magnets over here, but I am going to use my ruler just to hold my card down because I don't want my card to move. All right, and then I'm going to lift up my little elephant off my cardstock. So the ruler is just sort of like belt and braces, if you like, just so that the card doesn't move. It shouldn't move on that silicone mat, but as soon as I say it shouldn't, of course it will. I'm just going to wipe that ink off there because I don't want to risk getting ink on my card where I don't want it. Okay, so I'm going to stamp my elephant onto my card like so. And again, I am pressing down enough to give me an image, but not enough to splay that little stamp out. And I can stamp it again if I need to, which I probably will. I've actually probably put him a little bit low down because I can see the pencil mark, but that's fine because I can move the little banner because I haven't already stuck that down. So let's put that little elephant down again. That's better. That's a much better stamped image. Okay, and then I'm going to move this card out of the way. Okay, and then I'm going to re-ink my elephant like so. Take that bit of ink off there. Now I am going to stamp this elephant 2 or 3 times because I want a reasonable imprint on my silicone. Okay, so that's 1. And you can see that it's quite crisp here, but then it's not as crisp over here. So I'm going to concentrate on that area, but do the whole thing. That's a much better imprint. And then I'm just going to give it one last inking, like so. And that'll be enough. Okay, and then I'm going to put my card face down and using the same grid lines as I used before, and then my elephant should be, excuse my head, in the right place on my card. Take your time, don't rush it, because you're only going to get one chance really to do this bit, because the chances of you getting it in the right place to redo it, sort of like re-ink your stamp it down and then put your card back, the chances of you getting it in exactly the right place are quite slim. Ask me how I know. No worries, Beverly. You can always catch up, you know that. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I give enough pressure on here to make sure that I get a reasonable image on my card. Okay, and then lift it up. See, a little elephant, both sides. And it is a reasonable image as well. Okay, it's not sort of like really pale grey, and that's why I've stamped it 2 or 3 times, so that you get that sort of crisp black image stamped on your card. Now I can see on there that there is some ink where there shouldn't be, and that's obviously because I've got a little bit of dust or maybe something on the stamp or whatever. So make sure that your stamps are clean, your mat's clean, and your reverse image stamping will look even better. Okay, so I'm going to move him over there, and I'm going to get rid of this because I don't need this anymore. Okay, so several different ways, but all equally as easy to do. Just got to make sure that you line it all up in the right place. Okay, so because I've already stamped this yesterday and I've coloured it in, I'm going to use the one that I've already done. But by manipulating the little banner, you can get the banner to sit in the right place on here. Okay, but I'm not going to use this one because I did one yesterday and I've already coloured my little elephants in. So that sort of fits my card already. So all I've got to do now is position my banner where I want it. And again, when I stamped this yesterday, my elephant probably wasn't in totally the right position. But so long as you can sit your banner so that it looks like it's at the end of the trunk, then I don't think you're going to go far wrong. So I'm just going to put a spot of glue on here and a spot of glue on there. Now don't forget, I am going to get a little bit of wiggle room. This is Lisa's glue. So it's going to give me a little bit of time. So I'm going to put this one down first, and then I'm going to manipulate this one to sit where I want it to sit. And then I'm just going to hold it in place till that glue takes, which won't take very long at all, to be honest. Okay, so my little banner is in there. Now all you need to do is just gently lift, I can't do that with my nails, just gently lift each flag and put a little bit of glue underneath each flag so that each flag sits down, so that it's not going to lift and it's not going to pull off your card, because those 2 little bits of glue probably won't be quite enough to keep it secure. So just add a teeny weeny bit of glue underneath each flag, and then it's going to sit in the right place. Okay, and then I'm putting my easel card together. Now I've done most of this already. Okay, and you can see here around the edge here I've used some of the fabulous pink Gilding flakes. This is called Pink Blush. Oh, they're amazing. They're messy, but it's so much fun. And the one little tip I would give you, if you're doing something like this, sort of like, this is double-sided tape, okay? Now I've put my tape down, and what I didn't do, which I've done on subsequent things, is use my anti-static bag to just dust where the Gilding flakes aren't going to go, okay? And I've peeled off one piece of tape at a time and just added the Gilding flakes down and then just rubbed it down with my finger. All right, again, don't do this on a silicone mat because it will stick to the silicone. I would have a piece of scrap paper, quite a large piece to be honest. I'd go for sort of like this size, sort of A3 size, because it is messy and they will go everywhere purely and simply because of the static in them, and that's just the very nature of the beast. Any Gilding flakes that you buy are exactly the same. Okay, so put your tape down, then put your anti-static bag across the card where you don't want your flakes to stick, and then take your tape off one piece at a time and just add your Gilding flakes down, rub it on with your finger till you've got a really nice, lovely, soft, smooth image. And then when you come to do like the edges, as you rub the gilding flakes down, you'll find that some of them sit proud of your tape. If you take an old paintbrush and just run your paintbrush along the very edge with the tip, it will just lift off the excess flakes, and you'll be able to just brush them off. Okay, otherwise you'll end up with a sort of very rugged, messy line at the end, and you don't really want that. You want it to look nice and crisp. Okay, don't be afraid of putting too much pressure on when you're rubbing them down. I don't think you can possibly put too much pressure on. All right, it's just the way they work. Once they're down, and they're really not going to go anywhere. Okay, so I've only done that on those 3 sides because obviously my image is going to hide this line, so it'd be pointless putting any across the top there. So inside, I've already put my base down, and I'm looking at it now and it's not straight, so I apologise for that. But here you can see where I've stamped the congratulations from that where have I put them? These, the shadowed words, and I've put some gilding flakes down on a piece of card, and I've die cut the shape of the word so that it's got a drop shadow in the same gilding flakes colour as appears around the edge here, just to tie it all together. Okay, and then you can see that I've actually coloured in the word, and I've used those fine liner pens to do that with. Okay, I've used the fabulous padded quilt inside because I don't think you can go wrong putting padded quilt on a baby card. It's perfect. And I've used the nested bubble stitch squares for the rest. So these are all cut out using that one set. Okay. And I'm not being funny, you will find gilding flakes everywhere for days to come, but don't worry about it because they go to nothing eventually. So that's the basis of my easel card. Okay, and then I'm just going to add this to the front here because it says twins. Obviously it's twin girls because it's a pink card, so all I need to do now is just add this down to the front. And because I only want glue so far, I've already put a pencil line across here so that I don't go above that line, because otherwise it's going to stick to the back of the card and then I'm not going to be able to open it properly. So I'm just going to go just slightly beneath that pencil line and then all the way around the edge so that I can put that down. I'm not going across the middle because I don't want a glue line showing through my card, which can happen. So I'm going to pop this down here and I'm going to try and leave the same amount of gap between the rectangle that my elephants are on and the gilding flakes trim around the edge. If you've got sort of like a little makeup brush, or I can't find mine at the minute. Oh, here it is. So do something like this, just to give it a quick brush over, and you'll get rid of any stray sort of little bits of gilding flakes off your card. They're very good, these little brushes, and they're ever so cheap. Okay, so there's my card, and there's my other mirror image stamping with my elephants, with my flowers, with my birds, and with our darling little Lady Prue. So you can see it has numerous uses. You can do no end of things with it, and you're never then tied to using the stamp the way, yes, Suzanne, they are, and they will be available very soon. Yeah, never sneeze near gilding flakes, no, and don't have air conditioning on, because you will have a craft room decorated in gilding flakes whether you wanted it or not. I have to say, Karen, the colours of the gilding flakes are amazing. They are so vibrant. I mean, this pink is just, wow. It's just adorable. And every colour that there is has got this saturation of colour. So the rose gold, oh my days, is absolutely divine. absolutely divine. I promise you, I would have done it on the live, but it would have taken me too long. And I wanted, really, today's was about the reverse stamping, you know, the mirror imaging. So the gilding flakes was sort of like a little add-on, if you like. But I will be using them in future lives, I promise you, because they are amazing. I've got the glue, and I use the glue with a sponge to do something else with. I think to make the little piece of card that I cut the shadow out for this word, I used the glue on a sponge and just put it down onto the card. But if you've got a sticky ink pad, and I'm pretty sure Lisa showed the kit, and I'm sure there's a sticky ink pad in the kit that is coming after Christmas, and I can say it because she's already showed it, yeah. The sticky ink pad will allow you to stamp with whatever stamp you've got, and then add the gilding flakes down to that stamped image. So you will get an outline of gilding flakes as opposed to like a solid area of gilding flakes. So I'm sure both myself and Claire will be having quite a little play with gilding flakes at some point in the future, because they're amazing. They really are. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's given you some different ideas for using your stamps. Janet, I have to be honest, I got in a mess as well. You should have seen my craft room, and actually myself. I was covered in it. And every time I turned round, I could see somewhere else. Early January. Excellent. It will be the best New Year present that you could possibly buy for yourself. So ask for vouchers for Christmas, then you'll have money to spend in January when the gilding flakes and the little kit comes out, because it's cracking. Absolutely cracking. So there you go. I'm going to leave you there for today. Don't forget, Lisa will be live tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, as per usual, and I will be back with you on Monday. So see you at Lisa's tomorrow, and have a fabulous weekend, and take care of each other. Thanks for joining me. See you soon. Bye now.